The year is 1775. The tension is no longer political, it is no longer theoretical, it is no longer about petitions, it is war. After the battles of Lexington and Concord, something irreversible happens. Farmers become soldiers, blacksmiths become officers, merchants become strategists. The colonies are no longer just protesting British authority, they are fighting it. But here's the critical truth. At this moment, independence was not guaranteed. Not even close. The British Empire was the most powerful military force on earth. The Royal Navy dominated the seas. British troops were battle-hardened professionals. On paper, the American cause looked impossible. And yet, something stronger than military power was rising: conviction. In June 1775, the Continental Congress makes a bold move. They appoint a Virginian planter and veteran of the French and Indian War as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army, George Washington. He was not the most outspoken revolutionary. He was not the most radical voice. But he embodied something essential: discipline, honor, and quiet, unshakable resolve. Washington understood something crucial. This war would not be won through quick victories. It would be won through endurance. The early months were brutal. The Continental Army lacked supplies. Soldiers had little ammunition. Uniforms were mismatched. Training was inconsistent. Many troops were volunteers serving short terms. Then came the Battle of Bunker Hill. Technically, the British won the ground, but at a devastating cost. For the first time, colonial forces proved they could stand against the Redcoats in open battle. The myth of British invincibility cracked. Still, morale fluctuated. The question lingered in every campfire conversation. Are we truly fighting for independence or just better treatment? That question was answered in January 1776. Thomas Paine publishes a pamphlet titled Common Sense. Its message was explosive. It did not argue for compromise. It did not argue for reform. It argued for full independence. Paine wrote in plain language, accessible to ordinary citizens. He challenged the very idea of monarchy. He reframed the conflict not as a tax dispute, but as a moral turning point in human history. And the people responded. By the summer of 1776, momentum had shifted. The idea of independence was no longer radical. It was inevitable. On July 2nd, Congress votes in favor of independence. 2 days later, on July 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence is formally adopted. Thomas Jefferson's words echo across time. All men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This was more than a separation document. It was a declaration to the world that power doesn't flow from kings. It flows from the people. But here's the reality that often gets overlooked. Signing that document was an act of treason against the British Crown. The men who signed it risked execution if the revolution failed. They knew it, and they signed anyway. That is courage. That is conviction. That is the American spirit being born in real time. Yet the war was far from over. In fact, the darkest days were still ahead. New York would fall to British forces. Washington's army would retreat repeatedly. Supplies would run dangerously low. Desertions would rise. Winter would test the limits of human endurance. And soon the Continental Army would face one of its greatest trials, a winter that would either break the revolution or forge it into something unstoppable. Valley Forge was coming, and in that frozen crucible, the character of a nation would be tested, because America was not built in comfort. It was built in sacrifice. It was built in faith. It was built in defiance against overwhelming odds. And that is what makes this story different. Not just a rebellion, a revolution, to be continued